Am I the a-hole for calling my girlfriend useless and not allowing her to spend my money? My male 29 girlfriend, female 27, told me she lost her job about 6 months ago, around the time I got a major promotion. Obviously, I felt bad for her and let her have access to my money while she was looking for a new job. I also shouldered all of our shared expenses like rent and utilities when this happened. Over the past 6 months, I occasionally ask her for updates on her job search, but she would always get sad and weepy and tell me she's working on it. But today, I overheard her on the phone with her friend, saying how she loves the stay-at-home life ever since I got my promotion, and that she knew quitting her job was the right decision after all. I was extremely upset and betrayed, and I confronted her immediately. She started crying and told me to stop attacking her when I was talking in a normal tone of voice. I lost it when she tried playing the victim. And I said she has been totally useless for the past 6 months as she does no housework because we have hired help, and that I would not let her have access to my money anymore. She screamed at me and called me a controlling and abusive a-hole. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Let her have access to my money. Info. You aren't married. Why did you do this? Not the a-hole. She quit her job and knew quitting her job was the right decision after all. She's financially taking advantage of you, emotionally blackmailing you to do it. Only you can decide what you are willing to put up with in a relationship, but this level of deceit and manipulation is pretty despicable. Let me rephrase. I gave her money whenever she asked, whether that be for groceries or occasional luxuries. She didn't have direct access to my account. Also, we have been together for 4 years, so I trusted her to use my money wisely. Info. Why haven't you dumped her? She's using you and gaslighting you. I haven't processed the whole situation yet. I'm still kind of frozen up. She's been my girlfriend for 4 years, so it's hard to just cut her out immediately, without considering my emotions and the consequences. But Opie, this is a huge red flag. I don't know how you can trust her going forward. I am considering breaking up with her, but life isn't so straightforward that I can do that so swiftly with no regrets. Our lives had been shared and entangled for such a long time. You just need to sit down with yourself and decide how you feel about being intentionally lied to, manipulated, and used for over 6 months while she laughed behind your back. Then, when found out, accused you of 2 serious forms of domestic harm. If that doesn't make things clear for you, I'm not sure anything will. Not the a-hole. You might not feel it yet, but your post suggests that you know already that the relationship is broken. You tell us that she lied about losing her job in her job search in order to coast you at your expense. What this breach of your trust shows is a basic lack of respect for you. Without trust or respect, you really don't have a relationship worth building on. I know. This literally just happened today. I need a minute to breathe and process my next steps. Next story. Am I the a-hole for using my wife's fun budget to help out friends and family? I am the breadwinner in our home. My wife has the much tougher job of being a stay-at-home mom and wrangling our offspring. She works hard to make sure we have everything we need. Our budget is pretty simple. We put away about 15% of my earnings every month. Then we pay all the bills. Whatever is left we split and we can use it however we want. I like to use mine to work on my hobbies or treat us to a night out. I pay for the babysitter and whatever activity we do that night. Meanwhile, she uses hers to go to a spa or to buy herself pretty things that make her happy. Every once in a while, she will ask if we can send money to her family. Not because her family's homeless or anything. They just earn less than we do. Like in November, she asked if we could give her brother $500. He wanted to get his kids a PS5 for Christmas. I think that was the last straw. I told her that we could, but it would be the last time that I contributed money to give away to people who just ask her for it. December went fine. But then in January, one of her friends had car problems and needed to rent a car to run errands and drive her kids around. And my wife gave her money. When she told me about it, I said I was proud of her for sticking to our agreement that any money she decided to give away would come from her fun money and not ours. She looked really sour and asked if I was really not going to help her pay for her spa day with her friends. I said yes, because I had spent my money on a new drone already. She asked if we could take money from our savings account to pay. I said no, because that is for emergencies and household expenses. She's mad at me for not helping her friend. I pointed out that she could have kept her money and driven her friend around on errands and pick up her kids. She said I was being a jerk and slammed the door. For the record, my kids and I are still playing games in our PS4 and Switch. She just gives away our money to be a big shot, and I don't have that need. Not the a-hole, but your title is way misleading. I thought you said the money allocated to her, but it was her that did that. She can't keep giving away money and then expect you to bankroll her vanity. Not the a-hole, but I think OP and people like you on this thread are being very uncharitable about why she would do this. When you grow up poor or lower middle class, the favor economy is critical to your survival. You help out others when you have money and they ask, so that when you get hit with a random medical bill for your kid or get into a car accident, you can ask back and avoid losing your house. OP is planning for a predictable future where they stay middle/upper middle class and are able to pass that status on their children. OP's wife is planning for the unexpected, where crap hits the fan and they need to rely on their community to avoid destitution. Neither is invalid, but they are at loggerheads with each other. The culture of mutual aid in poorer communities is a big part of why no one ever really gets out. No matter how good you have it for even several years at a time, you can never save or invest it because other people in your community are struggling, so there's never any ability to build wealth. She was going to a spa day though. It's not like she's digging into her retirement funds. It's just a trade-off she has to make. I came from a third world country with a culture like this, and I can say from experience that a comment above is stretching it. I had relatives who went bankrupt because their wives do this. Started from just helping with living expenses to outright shower them with gifts for validation. Not the a-hole. So she's happy to help out her family and friends when it comes out of your pocket, just not hers? Yeah, she's being an a-hole for expecting you to keep on footing the bill. The fact that date nights all come from his half just makes it even worse. Not the a-hole. Your wife cannot make unilateral financial decisions, especially if they aren't for any of emergency, any more than you can. If she wants to give money away to friends and family without questions asked, it's only logical that she uses her own money, the one she doesn't have to answer anyone for. She's throwing a tantrum because she didn't think you'd stick to the agreement. Let her. However, this will snowball if you guys keep the bad communication going. You issuing an ultimatum and her throwing tantrums aren't solving the problem. You need to have a calm and deep conversation about your views on money, expenses, and giveaways. Next story. Am I the a-hole for wasting money on a bathroom and not helping my brother? My 10th anniversary is coming up, and my kids are getting old enough to be a pain in the butt regarding our single bathroom. I have been saving up, and for my 10th anniversary, I am getting a bathroom installed in the basement, and I am going all out. Well, as all out as I can afford. I am getting a 2-person tub with jets, in-floor heating, and a heat lamp so my wife can dry off and stay warm. Anyways, the issue is that my brother is having money problems. He called me and asked if I could spare any money to help him out. He has a tendency to live beyond his means. We have similar jobs and salaries, but he has a huge house with 3.5 bathrooms. He drives a $150,000 truck that he will never use to tow, haul, or go off-road with. His wife's engagement ring cost as much as my motorcycle. Meanwhile, my family lives in a bungalow my wife and I bought. It was built in 1956 and it is cozy for us and 2 kids. My bathroom budget is $25,000, but it will probably go higher when the contractor starts working. My mom constantly compares our lifestyles. She loves showing people pictures of his Christmas decorations and stuff. And she shares his vacation pictures, that sort of thing. And now my mom is backing him up. She says that I don't spend any money, so I should have some saved to help out family. She's saying he might have to sell his truck or downsize his home. I told her that's not really my problem. He makes a little more than I do a year, so he should have savings too. She said that he needs to have a big house so he can entertain, since he wants to kiss Bud all the way up the ladder. That might just be my interpretation. I don't want to lend him money and watch him waste it and disappoint my wife. She deserves a bathroom where she can take long baths without the kids, or me interrupting to use the toilet. I could cut corners and lend him some money, but I really don't want to do that, even if it means he has to sell his stuff. Now for the comments. Could be the fact that I desperately want a second bathroom but not the a-hole. All the reasons you cited are additional points for why you're not the a-hole. But ultimately, even without any mitigating factors, your savings are yours, and you don't owe anyone a loan nor gift, since it sounds unlikely he'd be able to pay you back. If you get the chance to get a second bathroom, go for it, even if it's just one full, one half bath. I'm not entirely sure how we ever survived in our home with just one. OMG. There are only 3 of us, but a year we were stuck in an apartment after a natural disaster with only 1 bathroom will always be on my list of top 10 nightmares. 2 potties is the minimum for us. Not the a-hole. It will probably go higher when the contractor starts working. It will absolutely go higher. We were quoted right around $20,000 for our bathroom renovation. And let's just say that number steadily creeped up when we realized that the old plumbing is a literal nightmare on earth that very rarely meets code/current standards. She's saying he might have to sell his truck or downsize his home. As he should. Those are both options that grown adults would do, rather than expecting their lives to be funded by siblings. It is beyond time for your brother to learn to live within his means. Not his plus whatever he can bum off of you and other family members. It's too bad he can't just sell a bathroom to you. Sounds like he has too many. But he needs that extra bathroom with how full of crap he is. Not the a-hole, but knowing how families are, if you change your mind and help him out, get a signed loan agreement with a payment schedule and everything. Just cover your rear. I'm not planning on changing my mind, but I hear you. He can't pay his bills now. How is he going to pay you back? Even with a signed note, your mom will just say, "Oh, let it go. He's family." Don't disappoint your wife. Not the a-hole. I highly doubt they expect themselves to pay back to begin with. The way Opie worded it out, sounds to me they want the money without expectations of it being paid back to begin with. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not paying for my mom's surgery even though I have money for it? I, 35 female, lost my father very early when I was 5 years old. A few months after his death, my mother married a new guy we'll call John. John already had 2 teenage boys, and he didn't want to raise me because he never wanted to be a girl's father. My mother, like a good mother, abandoned me with my aunt and took my brother who was 8 at a time with her to live with her husband. John was a man with a lot of money, and he always spoiled my mother and brother, but he never bothered to get me even a Christmas present. My mother didn't do anything for me either. She came to visit me once a month and didn't even call me at Christmas or New Year. I always called, but many times she didn't answer. My aunt was a woman who couldn't have children. Because of that, she and my uncle raised me as if I were their daughter, not missing anything for me. Even without much money, I accumulated some from my job I had during high school, and I got a small sum from my aunt which was enough for me to pay for college. At the time, I graduated computer science and went to work in a good company earning a great salary. Then 8 years ago, I received a much better job offer in a large company, one well known for having great hardware products. At that time, I accumulated a lot of money and helped my uncle and aunt renovate their house, and I always sent them a nice sum, even if they told me to spend it on myself. Now, I currently live alone in a great apartment with an estimated value in the millions in local currency. Recently, my mom called me on my Instagram. As I post a lot of pictures of trips and fancy places I go, it's not hard to find me. She asked if we could meet to talk and reevaluate our relationship to forget the past and move forward as mother and daughter. I have a soft heart, so I took it. I thought it would be an opportunity for us to talk and finally create the bond I always wanted. We made an appointment at a restaurant downtown and met there. When we got there, she hugged me, kissed me on the cheek, and said she missed me. We talked about my life, and when I asked how hers was going, she started to talk about how bad her current living situation is. Apparently, she divorced John, but my brother didn't want to keep her as she is now poor. To make matters worse, she lives on a pension from John and has serious heart problems. After a while, she asked if I could pay for a surgery she needed. The surgery is quite expensive, so I told her I wouldn't pay as I wouldn't feel good doing that. She yelled at me in the middle of the restaurant, said I was a terrible daughter, and that I was letting her die even though I could pay for her surgery. I left there very embarrassed. When I told my aunt, she said it was my decision, but remarked that I have plenty of money to pay and that it wouldn't affect me financially. I don't want to do this because she never have been a mom to me, but I need to ask, am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. She abandoned you. You don't owe her a thing. I'm calling BS on the heart problems, by the way. The fact she abandoned one of her children demonstrates she has no heart. You're better off without her. I thought the same thing. Her mom would have asked for the money directly, rather than having OP pay the hospital bills. Not the a-hole. Your mom didn't want a relationship with you. She wanted your money. And she would have expected you to support her for the rest of her life. Yep, she literally abandoned her daughter for money. And she has the nerve to come asking for money? Absolutely not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Today it's surgery. Tomorrow it will be recovery, then rent, bills, lifestyle, vacations, then home care. And you will end up restricting your lifestyle for someone who threw you away, so she could have the lifestyle she wanted. If she pops up again, tell her you are saving your money to help the people who raised you. You owe her nothing. Not the a-hole. Just decide with what you can live with. It's unclear if your aunt is your mother's sister or not. You may want to take that into consideration too. Saying all that, your mother clearly didn't care about catching up. She just wanted your help. She should have had more humility when you gave your answer. Something I caught at the end there is that her aunt seemed to be gunning for helping the mother. In any other situation, I would agree. But with the caveat that if the woman who raised you is asking you to help save her sister, consider it. They haven't asked you for anything even if you were helping them out. Saying no to her one ask because of your personal feelings has a cost. Am I the a-hole for calling my sister-in-law out and leaving my house with my baby shower gifts and causing her to be shunned by my in-laws? Me, female 29, and my husband, male 32, are expecting our first baby together. In case it's relevant, my husband comes from a well-off family, while I come from a family that was not. I'm not ashamed to say it. I'd have a great family that I wouldn't replace for all the money in the world. My in-laws are great too, and they treat me good. Save for my brother-in-law Austin, who likes to point out how beneath his levels I am, although his wife comes from poor family too, and they are also expecting. My sister planned a baby shower for me. It wasn't fancy, but it was affordable and great. My sister-in-law showed up empty-handed and criticized my baby shower party up and down and talked about how glamorous hers will be. She asked my sister how much the party cost her and joked that the dress she wore probably costs more. She was acting rude and arrogant to my family and friends, but none of my in-laws said anything. My sister put the gifts in the other room, then we continued celebrating. After the party, my sister notified me that there were a number of gifts missing, including the one she brought. I looked around and couldn't find them. Then I checked the camera footage and saw my sister-in-law walking out with several gifts that were given by my own family and friends. I was fuming and called to confront her. I'd asked her to bring the gifts back, but she denied and was hurt that I accused her of stealing from me and said she'd tell the family about me lying when I insisted. I told her I have a video and have no problem involving the family too to see who's at fault. She hung up and I waited, then shared the footage with all of my in-laws. It blew up, and many of them shamed her for what she did and told her to give the stuff back. She still didn't respond, but Austin was livid and called me to ask about the nonsense I fabricated about his wife, and called me gross with a wild imagination to even think that his wife would steal cheap gifts from my low-class family, much less have the gall to go lie to his entire family about it, and caused his wife to be publicly shamed and shunned. Mother-in-law was so upset too. She said I messed up and should have resolved this privately. Instead of going nuclear and ruining sister-in-law's relationships over a few gifts, it offered to pay for them if I take the post down. My husband was out of the country, and she said she'll call him personally to tell him to handle me when I refused. And she said, just wait till he gets back. Well, husband reacted differently. He even got into an argument with Austin and told him his wife was the cheap one for stealing his baby stuff. I got my stuff back, but haven't heard anything from my sister-in-law. Mother-in-law said sister-in-law doesn't steal. She's better than that. And I shouldn't call it stealing, so she must have had another reason. She is in Austin at his wife's side after he argued with my husband. Now I feel like I just drove a wedge in my husband's family for this. Now for the top comments. The nuclear option is calling the police and pressing charges. Sister-in-law got off easy. Not today, Hall. I'd be pulling that video up every holiday. Notice how the mother-in-law dropped her own variation of narcissist sprayer in defense of sister-in-law. Too bad you can't make a video your profile picture. Not today, Hall. I feel like I just drove a wedge in my husband's family for this. You didn't. Her stealing did. You did what anyone would do, and you even gave her a chance to fess up privately before involving anyone else. It really takes some enablers to watch a video of someone literally stealing and then go ahead blame the victim of the said theft. Not today, Hall. This absolutely is a hill I would die on. You don't get to steal from me and then cry you're the victim because I shared a video of you stealing. No. Not today, Hall. Not at all. She stole your baby gifts. There's no excuse for that, and your mother-in-law enabling that behavior is disgusting. You gave her a private opportunity to right the wrong, and she didn't take it. She screwed up more than once here. Kudos to your husband. Not Dayhal. Your mother-in-law should be ashamed of supporting your sister-in-law. If she didn't want it to be made public, your sister-in-law should have returned the gifts as easily as she stole them. Stay away from them. I'd consider it a blessing to be rid of them before giving birth. You don't need any of these people around your child. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for not helping my husband clean the house/host his family? My husband and I have been married for 11 years, but there has always been some friction when it comes to household chores and hosting guests. My husband has always maintained that he has a higher threshold for messes, meaning that he won't think something needs attention as quickly as I do. However, he is always willing to clean when I ask him to. This often causes friction when we have guests over, as I feel like I have to scramble to clean the house and prep food and drinks whenever anyone comes over. He will generally handle the cleanup afterwards, but he's terrible about budgeting time before people come over. Example, he is almost always just barely getting in the shower when people arrive at our house. This afternoon, my mother-in-law is driving through our town and wants to stop by and see our house for the first time. This is also the first time we will be seeing her in almost 2 years. I have been reminding my husband for 2 weeks to finalize when she is coming, so that I can free up my schedule at work and get the house sorted out. We both work from home, but both of us have regular meetings that can't be arbitrarily skipped. Last night, I reminded him again to text his mom to find out when she would be here, and I reminded him that I have a meeting at 1 p.m. that it is now too late to reschedule. This morning, at about 7 a.m., he finally contacted her and told me that she's already left and she wants to be here at noon for lunch. He wants me to entertain/host until my meeting so he can finish up his own work. Would I be the a-hole if I stick to my work schedule and let him deal with his situation? I have projects that I need to finish, and I'm just so tired of him waiting until the last second and expecting me to drop everything and scramble around fixing everything. I feel like I'm just being petty because it really bothers me when he doesn't help out, especially when it's my family coming over, but I'm also just annoyed at how last minute this is since I've been reminding him for weeks. Not a-hole. Your spouse didn't listen multiple times you ask and should take responsibility, especially since you both work from home. Her work is just as important as his, but he's told her essentially that hers is irrelevant. Totally 100% not a-hole. Husband has to put on big boy pants. Not a-hole. I would pop out and say hello to your mother-in-law. You haven't seen her in 2 years. Your husband agreed to host her for lunch. If he doesn't want to prepare anything, he can order takeout. Also, he can clean the house. He's known she was coming for 2 weeks. Not a-hole. Your husband is about to learn a valuable lesson about planning, cleaning, and having guests. You're tired of having to drop everything last minute because of his poor planning. One way to stop him from doing it again is to let him have the consequences of his own inaction. He knew she was coming. Okay, let him handle it. Well, if you keep fixing these situations for him, he will keep doing the same thing. Let him learn the hard way. I agree, 100%. I just don't want to pick an excessively bad time to take a stand, and I really don't like petty fights in front of other people. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for being less than nice to a distant family member that came over unannounced and woke my whole house up? So I, 32 male, was at home with my wife, 32 female, and our 2 children, a 3-year-old boy and a daughter that is just a month old. My wife has been very sleep deprived for obvious reasons, and I've been struggling too. She went to bed at 7 p.m. and my 1-month daughter had just gone down too. 7:40 rolls around and I'm snuggling my son, getting him ready for bed. We hear a knock at the door. My dog barks and my baby and wife gets woken up. The person at the door was a very distant relative that has a tendency to overstep. She's my great uncle's adopted son's wife, and I've never liked her, and I have good reason, as she yelled at my mom for not getting invited to my wedding years ago. Anyways, I answer, and I said, "What are you doing here?" She hands me a bag with some baby clothes for the new baby, which is a nice gesture, but not at damn near 8 p.m. when she knows we just had a baby. I said thank you and goodbye. She kept trying to talk to me. I not so politely said, "You just woke my whole freaking house up. Don't ever come here without calling me first again." I thought about calling and apologizing, but I really don't think I was in the wrong. Crazy rude on her part, right? So that's what I got. Tell me, am I the a-hole? Edit. For what it's worth, this woman has always been a line stepper. She yelled at my mom for not getting invited to my wedding. She also cheats on my actual relative, and everyone knows it but him. Plenty of people have told him, but he refuses to believe it. I should have included this before. I also wake up very early for work. Lots of mentions of training my dog better. We have had break-ins before, and I have a family to keep safe. I want my dog to bark when there's a stranger at my door, and she is extremely well trained. Now for the comments. Not a day-hole. I know you could have been nicer, but new babies and lack of sleep make us grumpy, crabby patties, so you get a pass. She was rude for not texting/calling ahead of time to ask if it's a good time to come over. Put a big sign on your front door that says, "Newborn baby, please do not disturb," or something. I've seen it done before. Congrats on your new baby and beautiful family. Thank you. Good advice. I get the feeling that those who think I am the a-hole are not parents, and those who think I am not the a-hole are parents. Haha. Some of us non-parents also think you're not the a-hole. Even if you take the kiddos out of the equation, I still hate people just dropping by without calling/texting first. Maybe it's the millennial in me, but I will fully not answer the door if someone does that. And it's 8 p.m. on a weekday. Most people will have to work in the morning. After college/early 20s, nobody just stops by to hang out after dark, with no warning, unless it's a best friend or someone you're sleeping with. Your relative is rude, and I would have been snappy with her too. Not a hole. I don't understand the other comments. You don't show up unannounced when someone just had a baby, especially not in the first month. I get she had presents, and honestly, I would have responded the same way. It's just rude to do even if it's your best friend and not a distant relative. Maybe apologize and say we were all tired and we appreciate it, but reinforce, please do not stop by again without letting us know. I'm struggling with the rules of this sub because I want to defend myself when people say I'm the a-hole. I honestly wasn't expecting people to say I was the a-hole, lol. I know I was, a little, but what you did majorly trumped what I did, I thought. Not the a-hole. Training your dog better? What? Dogs are supposed to bark when someone's at your door. At least that's what I want mine to do. Thank you. Rip on me if you want to, but you leave my dog out of it. Last story. Am I the a-hole for saying no to my sister and brother-in-law staying at my place for my wedding? My older sister, 36 female, married her husband, 38 male 10 years ago. At the time, she had my niece who was 6 and my nephew who was 5. I, 25 female, was 15 and he was a domineering prick. I remember staying with my sister for a weekend and he was a prick because I didn't make the bed the way he liked it made, military style, and he made me remake the bed twice to get it just right. He didn't like the way I ate either and said I needed to learn how to shovel food in so we can move on with the day. The weekend I spent there was awful and he treated me like crap. He was also hard on my niece and nephew and they were miserable. My sister was happy with things and she told me as much when I spoke to her about it. Not much has changed. Her husband is still the very same way and is very hard to get along with. He's one of those guys that never leaves the military training behind. He acts like we're all in the army and holds us to those standards. It has created a lot of tension with my niece and nephew who despise their stepdad and have admitted they want to move out as soon as they can. But that's not the issue here, or at least I feel this is relevant to the issue at hand. I'm getting married, and I invited my sister, brother-in-law, and the kids. The kids aren't coming, my sister said. They want a weekend without the teens, and she wants her and her husband to stay at my house. I said no. She asked me why. I said I don't want him barking orders in my home the morning of my wedding, and that she knows that's what he will do, as it does it every time they stay at our parents' house. My sister told me I never gave him a chance, and denying them a chance to stay isn't fair, because he's always been there for us and treated us like his family. I told her it doesn't excuse any of it, and when I have brought it up before when I have told him to stop ordering people around or treating us like kids, he ignores us. And I do not want that energy in my home the day of my wedding. She thinks I'm an a-hole for saying no. Her husband thinks I'm the world's biggest a-hole, and that I am wrong to treat them differently just because I don't like him. Am I the a-hole? It's your wedding, not the a-hole. They want a weekend without the kids? They can rent a nice hotel room and really live it up. It's hilarious to think him barking orders at the hotel cleaning staff as they make the bed. Tuck that corner in, you maggot. Not at a-hole. That I'm wrong to treat them differently because I don't like him. But that's exactly why you should treat him differently. He's cruel and abusive to his children and his family, so no one likes him. These are the consequences of his choices. Also, your sister sadly is his enabler. These two are simply not mature enough to have a healthy view of the situation. They're going to continue to act like victims because they are horrible narcissists. Not at a-hole. Exactly. What is this absolute BS that he should be treated as nicely as everyone else, despite the fact that he is a rampaging a-hole? Not at a-hole, OP. Have a lovely wedding day. They're not even his children. They're his stepchildren. And sisters basically allowed him to make them miserable. She'll be shocked when they move out the second they turn 18. Not at a-hole. It's your house, your wedding, and you choose who stays at your place. And your wedding's the last day you should have to put up with someone you don't like. Not to mention, he'd probably be shouting military-style orders on the wedding night. Am I the a-hole for not waiting and reporting my brother and his fiancée for taking my ring? I, male 26, been planning on proposing to my girlfriend of 3 years who just graduated college. She studied overseas and is returning home soon. We both came from the same town, so our families know each other too well. I work in construction. It's a very demanding job, but I was able to save up for new furniture. I still pay rent. And I was so happy to afford the ring I was planning to propose to my girlfriend with. I paid $3,000, and my girlfriend didn't pressure me to pay that much, but I really think she deserves nothing less. My brother saw the ring and liked it. Even said that he'd proposed to his girlfriend with a similar ring, but complained he didn't have $3,000. I told him about less expensive rings that were just as nice, but he constantly kept holding it and looking at it. A week ago, I got home from work and discovered the ring was not in my room. My brother said he borrowed it to show it to his girlfriend, but forgot to bring it back. Turned out he proposed with it. I went off on him and told him to go get it back. He wanted me to chill, but I called his girlfriend's number and all calls were directed back to him. I called my parents, but they wanted to stay out of it. I told my brother to give it back the same day, and he begged me to give him 2 days so he could get a similar, but cheaper one sort of like copy it, so his now fiancé won't notice. For days he kept stalling, saying tomorrow, no the day after, no the day after. I finally took a stand and told him I'd call the police, and I did. He wasn't with his fiancée when the police showed up, and his fiancée called him from the station when he was at my parents' house. He and my parents started cussing me out when I came. And my parents freaked out when I told my brother he needed to go to the station, or the police would come get him. He cussed me out for getting his fiancée involved, and said that I'm not a man to do this to a woman. But I told him the ring was in her possession, and that it's his fault his fiancée was involved. I got kicked out of my parents' house after a huge argument, and I got nasty texts from my mom when the police kept my brother at the station for 2 nights. She guilted me about what happened to my brother, and said I went too far. My dad helped get him out, and I got the ring back. Now, more of my family heard of what happened, and only a few took my side, while others repeated my parents' statements saying I should have never done that, because I had other ways, but I went too far. What's worse is that my girlfriend criticized me as well, and said that I caused a lasting issue in our relationship with my brother and his fiancée, and I haven't seen my mom after this. Usually she's supportive of me, so this got me worried. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Yo, what did I just read? Your brother stole and proposed with an engagement ring you bought and your family's mad at you? Nah bro, ain't nobody need family like that. Not an a-hole. Edited to add. I just want to share like so many others. My mother did this exact same thing. I once texted her because I needed her to talk to my sister about something incredibly important, and she just didn't answer. My mother said, stop texting me about your sisters. I'm not getting in the middle of it. I kid you not. Less than 5 minutes later, I get a text from my sister saying it's not her problem, and parroting what I told my mom. I called mother out on it, and this psycho said I didn't get in the middle of it. It's not my fault she was sitting here while I read a text out loud. I haven't gone home in 7 years, and man, I'm so much happier. For real, my heart breaks for Opie. Family can be challenging, but this is next level gaslighting and messed up. Good luck, Opie. Honestly, I feel so sorry for the brother's girlfriend too. Her fiancé proposed to her with a ring stolen from his brother and refused to give it back even after he was threatened with the police, resulting in her being picked up and held at the station. I can't even imagine how humiliating that must have been. The only silver lining is that she found out he's a gigantic a-hole before the wedding. Not an a-hole. Your brother stole an item worth over $3,000. While I would never put my sister in jail personally, my sister would also never put me in a position where I'd have to consider it. Screw your family. Maybe even the girlfriend too. That family's bad crap if they think everything is Opie's fault. That's the part I'm stuck on. He tried to talk to fiancé. She wouldn't respond and brother wouldn't do anything. What was his option that this girlfriend suggests? Legit, he was in a no-win situation, and that is over felony theft, greater than $500 US. Legit, Opie. If your girlfriend is against you, and there's no easy way to say this, you may have picked out a significant other unconsciously, because she exhibits the same toxic traits as your family that you are used to. Not a hole. Everyone is missing or skipping that you were the victim of a felony theft. Let things settle with your family. As for your girlfriend, she might prefer another ring, and your jeweler might exchange it for a fee. Your relationship with your brother is damaged because he committed a serious crime against you. If he doesn't face consequences for it, this is likely to happen again. You cannot be close with a thief. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for not inviting my dad's wife bridal shopping because of conflict with her and my mom? I have an idea where this might go, but I wanted to ask. My parents divorced when I, 26 female, was 8. I'm the youngest of 3, 2 older brothers, and pretty much from day one, we knew our dad left our mom for another woman, and that the other woman was the person we were staying with when we saw our dad. There was always tension between our mom and them, and we always chose our mom. Our relationship with our dad was impacted by his decision to leave our mom for another woman, and for throwing us into a situation like that immediately. Knowing our family was broken sucked, and then we were supposed to give this new chick a chance knowing what we knew? In the fight, we have always sided with mom. Not that we were asked to, but we would prefer to just keep things separate where possible, or not include at all. I'm getting married. Booked an appointment at a bridal boutique and invited my mom, brother's girlfriends, and my future mother-in-law and sister-in-laws. Dad and his wife found out about it and are pissed I didn't invite her. She said she expected to be included after 18 years as my stepmom and my dad's significant other. Dad said he wanted us to let go of the past and treat them as family of equal worth to mom. I said I didn't want her there, and it should be my choice as the person getting married. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Just tell her sweetly that you think it's a bad omen to have someone there who has such little respect for marriage vows that should sleep with a married man, and that she's lucky that she and your adulterer father are allowed at the wedding at all. But I'm mean. Boom! This is the way. Not the a-hole. 100% agree. Opie is going to need to carry some ice upon delivery of this burn. Not the a-hole. If you don't have much of a relationship with her, why does she need to be there? Simply serving time as a stepmother doesn't actually make her a stepmother, or someone you want or need there on a special day. Use COVID. Oh, sorry, we can only have 4 guests at the bridal salon. Exactly. It sounds like Opie and stepmom have no relationship, except the fact she's Opie's father's wife. Opie shouldn't be forced to pretend it's something that doesn't exist. Opie is not an a-hole. Agreed. Also, if your mom knows your dad left her for that woman, and that is awkward, I think giving your mom that respect if not including your stepmom is fine. Maybe to appease your dad, once you pick your dress, go to the salon with your stepmom, try on the dress for her and have lunch or something after. But if the relationship isn't there, it's not something either of them should be sweating. They have to have some empathy towards the original situation of how they got together and how that could be awkward for you and your mom. Yeah, the stepmom has been in your life for 18 years, but your mom has been there since the beginning, and you have the relationship with her, not the stepmom. Not an a-hole. I personally wouldn't want a homewrecker at my wedding, let alone weighing in on what dress I'm going to wear. Dad, she's not invited to this bridal shopping thing, and that's final. I'm already inviting her to the wedding itself, despite the fact that I feel uncomfortable about it because mom will be there. If she can't appreciate that, then I'm afraid she'll just have to live with it. And if you or her push it any further, you'll find yourselves, uninvited to my wedding. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for uninviting my bridesmaid for my wedding after her husband was disrespectful? I, 24 female, went out for drinks with two other couples, 24 to 26. One married, the other in a relationship. Unfortunately, my fiancé couldn't make it due to work commitments. My best friend and bridesmaid Eve's husband Matt made everyone uncomfortable all night, suggesting me and his wife's other friend Larry be intimate together with him in front of his wife, and describing to me in detail what he wanted to do in bed to Larry's girlfriend's sister, Kate. Later in the night, he told me I was settling for my fiancé, was clearly unhappy, and shouldn't just marry him because I had his child. He said a similar thing to Larry's girlfriend, and they actually ended up splitting up after this. I left shortly after, and after speaking to my fiancé, who considered Matt a friend, he doesn't want him at our wedding. Understandable, considering he proposed to be intimate with the bride, and also told her not to settle for the groom. So I had an awkward phone call with Eve ahead of me. I then heard from Larry that he took it a step further that night. He cornered Kate outside the bathroom at the bar and told her to her face the explicit things he wanted to do to her, including getting his friends involved. Once I heard this, I knew I had to tell her, which I did. It was awful, and we both cried, but she said she was grateful to me for telling her. 10 minutes later, me and Larry get an apology call from Matt, which was him claiming he was blackout drunk. Couldn't remember anything from getting a taxi, despite him cornering Kate being before this, and is sorry if he said/did those things, taking no actual responsibility. Next day, Eve says it's all fine, and is sorry and said he won't do it again, so she forgives him. Fine, her marriage, her choice, even if this is the third time he's done something like this. I thought it was sorted, but a week later, she messages me to ask if Matt is 100% not invited to the wedding. I reply 100%. All of a sudden, I get a barrage of, "I can't believe you do this. He's my husband. You're my best friend. You can't make me choose. I would always choose my husband." There's going to be so much tension from now on. If you claim you've never said anything you regret whilst drunk, you're lying. It gets to a point where I've told her not to come either, losing a bridesmaid and a friend in the process. I didn't want her to choose, I just didn't want him at my wedding. Am I the a-hole? Edit. When I first told her what he'd done/said, she told me she understood us not wanting him there and that she would still be attending. She then went back on this nearly a week after. Now for the top comments. Just repeat, sorry, see it this way. Due to Matt's repeated inappropriate behavior, neither I nor my fiancé are comfortable with his presence at our wedding. It has nothing to do with you, and I'm sorry you're caught in the middle. It didn't have to mean you had to cut her as a bridesmaid, but if she continued stirring up drama, then you know best. Not the a-hole. Unfortunately, I said this multiple times. She kept saying he'd done nothing wrong and apologized, and refused to accept that he couldn't come. She turned me into the bad guy, and that's when I had enough. Yep, justified and necessary. It's on her. Not the a-hole. A wedding is supposed to be a time of joy and good vibes, and this guy Matt is probably going to get blackout drunk and try this on others. It's unfortunate that you are losing your best friend in the fallout, but that's on her. Thank you. Part of me worries that I was too excessive in uninviting her too, but I was just worried she'd sulk or cause a scene at either the hen do or wedding. If she brought it up and tried to fight it just a week later, I doubt she wouldn't bring it up again. Not the a-hole. Honestly, he sounds like a predator. I can't wrap my mind around how she's okay with all of that. It's really sad. You don't think he's abusive towards her, do you? I'm not saying he is, but just the way she sees nothing wrong with everything he said just bothers me. I'm sorry you're going through this, though. Losing a friend, especially over something like this, sucks. I hope everything works out for you. I definitely don't think there's mistreatment. I think he's just played the victim each time, and she cares a lot about what others think of her. She has said previously when I've confronted her about his behavior that she doesn't want to be that divorcee at 24. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not supporting my brother's engagement? Hello all, this is my first post here, and I need an outside opinion. My brother 26 has never had great luck in the dating scene. He tends to only date women who treat him like garbage. In 2020, he met a girl online and she was definitely not his type, and he even said himself he wasn't attracted to her. They dated for about 3 months and he decides to ask her to marry him. She accepted, and they got engaged. About 1 month in, they have a big fight and break up. I was very supportive of him, even though it was clear it wouldn't last. Come to find out, she had a substance dependency and was only using him for his money. He looked over all her flaws and knew that she was taking his money, but he insisted she was the one. Fast forward to 2021, back in April, he meets a new girl, 21. She is admittedly a much better partner than his last, but still a very new relationship. She still lives at home and has been severely sheltered her entire life by super fundamentalist Christian parents. We are Christian as well, but like the cool Christians, lol. So yesterday, he announced that they got engaged. Needless to say, I was shocked. I have only met her once, and I have never heard her speak. He doesn't act like his true self around her. Tries to put on a glossy sheen, and of course she thinks he is perfect. When I found out, I approached him and said, why don't you wait longer? You don't really even know each other yet. He has never been in a long-term relationship, and neither has she. I got married on my 1-year anniversary, and if I'm being honest, I think we should have waited longer. We are 5 years in, and we feel we are just hitting our stride. I told him about my experience and what my wife and I went through. That was met with a massive, why can't you just be supportive and happy for me? That's what a good brother would do. I then brought up my concerns to my parents, and their response was, in this family, we support each other's decisions no matter what. I then said, I have to blindly support every single decision every family member makes, even if that decision could possibly hurt them in the long run? I feel it is more loving, and it would be better to say, hey, I know you really want this. I want that for you too. But I really don't think this is a good idea, and I love you enough to tell you this. Am I the a-hole for not blindly supporting his decisions? Not the a-hole, but you will be if you keep pressing. You have given him good advice, and he is a grown man who can take it in or reject it. You have only met her once, and if you never even heard her speak, then your brother likely thinks your opinion of her doesn't hold much weight. Maybe you should try to get to know her better before discussing this further with him. Not the a-hole. Tough love over blind support, always. I lost a relationship with my sister for basically this exact thing. Long story. Turns out she's a narcissist, so she treats me disgustingly for years as punishment for sharing my concern with her that one time. Even if their relationship progressed swimmingly, it didn't. I wouldn't change my stance in a do-over. It's the principle. Not the a-hole, but please encourage them to do premarital counseling with a licensed professional, not someone from the soon-to-be wife's church. Some of the crap that religious leaders say in premarital counseling is appalling. Not the a-hole. Too many people feel that family means you blindly have to support every stupid thing they do. I think you've said your piece. You're not going to change anyone's minds. But it's not your fault if your brother's relationship crashes and burns. He is making his bed and he'll have to lay in it. Am I the a-hole for canceling my niece's college fund upon discovering what she's been doing to me and my wife for months? My wife and I struggled with infertility for years. We're still trying more options, but we're beginning to lose hope. I have a 16-year-old niece that is like a daughter and a friend to me. Considering I'm doing well financially, I've decided to take care of her education and start a college fund so she could attend a college of her choice. My brother and his wife, my niece's stepmom, are of course aware of that, and they appreciate it very much. They always talk about what a generous, loving uncle I am, like my younger brother. I've been dealing with a series of unusual, unexplainable events, like receiving texts at work from someone pretending to be my wife, informing me of some big news like her being pregnant, or finding mysterious envelopes in my car when I'm at my parents', and the envelopes contained letters from someone also pretending to be my wife, and again telling me she was pregnant. My wife and I had no idea who's been playing us like that. We knew it was someone close, and had many that made our suspect list, including my brother-in-law. Last week, I was visiting my brother's house and my car was parked in their driveway. I was sitting with my brother and sister-in-law when my niece left for a few minutes, then returned. I finished my coffee and said goodbye and left. While I was approaching my car, I noticed a sign on the windshield. I took a look, and the sign read, "I'm pregnant," written largely. I was confused because I knew no one from this neighborhood and suspected someone who knew me did it. I called my wife, and she again said this was false news. I took the sign and went back to my brother's house to help figure this out. He said someone must have left it in the wrong car, but I explained it happened before. He just shrugged. But sister-in-law pointed at the sign and said the writing looked similar to my niece's writing style. My brother told her to stop, but I called my niece to come downstairs and ask her. She denied, but got nervous and admitted leaving the sign on my windshield, as well as sending/leaving letters and texts pretending to be my wife. But didn't have ill intent, just did it for laughs. I blew up, telling her she was out of line to think mocking mine and my wife's suffering and playing us for months was funny. I said I was mad, and that I was disappointed and won't ever look at her the same. I informed her, my brother and sister-in-law, that I officially canceled the college fund I started for her due to her cruelty and disrespect for us. She broke down saying she meant no harm or disrespect, and was just messing with/teasing me. My brother said I can't actually make this decision based on small mistake my niece made. He said this is her future that I was giving up on, and my decision will have a lasting impact. I cut the conversation and left after he tried to talk me out of giving her this harsh punishment. But to me, this was no punishment. Just realizing she didn't deserve my hard-earned money. Brother said I exaggerated, and he actually thinks punishing her by taking away electronics and having her do work around the house should be enough punishment, not canceling the fund I started for her. But I already told him canceling the fund was not a punishment, but a reaction from me upon finding out what she's been doing for over 2 months. Now for the top comments. Not today, home. But it probably wouldn't hurt if you sent her a few mysterious texts that said, "You won a scholarship," just for laughs. I'd love that. Maybe then she'll learn that saying "I meant no harm" means jack, after months of causing harm. Not today, home. And your brother has no right to demand your money for anything. In what world would she believe this was funny? Why would you think that? Brother's immediate reaction of trying to shut down stepmom makes me think he was more aware of what was happening than has been let on. I thought the same thing. He had to know what was going on to deny and try to redirect so quickly. I get teens can be malicious, but it just seems weird for a teen to go this way when she's clearly close to both of them. So how much influence has her dad had on her actions? His reaction just makes me think something more is afoot. Not today, home. Put the money towards fertility treatments, or whatever path you chose. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for taking back the money I promised my daughter for her trip after she refused to watch her younger siblings for the evening? My daughter Zoe, 17, has been planning a trip with her friends for weeks and asked for my wife's and my help with money. I promised her that I'll be paying for her part of the trip, which is about $80 from stuff she needs for the trip, food and other expenses. Zoe appreciated this a lot since she normally pays for trips and other fun things with her own money, but she left her summer job not too long ago. 2 days ago was my wife and I's wedding anniversary. We planned to go out and celebrate in the evening, and I asked Zoe if she could watch her younger siblings, 3 and 9, while we're out. She said, "Sorry, I have plans for tonight." I asked her to elaborate, and she said she wanted to meet her best friend at a party before she leaves town, as her friend will be moving away this month. She suggested we get a babysitter, but it was already late for me to call and arrange for a babysitter. My wife suggested calling my sister, but my sister has enough on her plate to be watching our kids. I tried to convince Zoe to skip going out and watch her brothers, but she refused, and said my wife and I could stay home and celebrate. But I told her we already reserved a table at a restaurant. I was getting pissed and brought up the trip that I was paying for, and told her I would take the money back if she refused to watch her brothers for the evening. She said no, so I told her no trip then, unless she gets the money herself because I'm no longer paying for it. She screamed at me, calling me unbelievable for taking money back just because she wanted to attend her best friend's goodbye party and not wanting responsibility for her brothers. I refused to discuss it. I took the kids to my mother's house and left. My wife said I was too harsh on Zoe, especially since it's not her fault she doesn't want to be responsible for her brothers for the evening. I was puzzled. I told her it's just one evening. But still my wife thought I punished Zoe over nothing by taking the money promised for her trip. Zoe isn't speaking to me, just cold shouldering me because of this. Edit. I just checked the comments and some were asking why I notified her last minute. The answer is because I assumed she'd be home like usual, so I never thought of needing to get a sitter. You're the a-hole. 2 points. Firstly, if the $80 gift had a strings attached, you ought to have made that clear from the onset. Introducing conditions retroactively sets the precedence that your gifts aren't really gifts at all, but tools used to manipulate and control. Secondly, you ought to have provided your daughter with sufficient notice, so that she can plan her schedule. What you did shows that you have zero respect for her time, and that you expect unquestioning obedience from her. Zero respect and expecting unquestioning obedience. That's OB in a nutshell. Complete a-hole. She suggested we get a babysitter, but it was already late. So it's too late to call a babysitter, but it's fine to not give your daughter any notice? You're the a-hole. Your daughter makes plans like you do, and deserves some notice if you want her to babysit. Respect this. Also, OB reserved a table. If he had time to reserve a table, he had time to either get a babysitter or give enough notice to his daughter. Your poor planning skills is not the fault of your daughter. She had plans, and you acted like a child when dealing with her. You're the a-hole. Clearly you had other options, because you took them to your mother's house. This is a joke, right? Yeah, you're the a-hole. Doesn't even sound like you asked in advance or tried to find a sitter at all. You waited until the last second when you felt she would have no option but to say yes. She called you on your nonsense, and now you were pissed about it. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not forcing my daughter to spend the night at her boy-dad's house? I, 36 female, have a daughter, Lucy, 10. She was not quite 2 yet when I divorced her father, Larry, 40. There were many reasons. Firstly, he would claim to be taking money from our account to pay bills, yet every single bill was delinquent. He would check the mail and hide the shut-off notices. He was never able to explain what he was doing with our money. Also, I'd work all day to come home to my daughter in a dirty diaper, alone in her nursery while he sat around playing video games all day. Anyway, I decided it was best for all of us to divorce. I've been with Lucy's stepdad, Thomas, 35, for almost 4 years now, and he is the only other man I've had around her. We are all very amicable though. I've never brought her boy-dad to court for child support, as I agreed to handle it privately. Same with custody. She lives with Thomas and I full-time. Larry's supposed to pick her up Saturday night, and we would pick her back up Sunday by noon. He has a history of canceling on her for various reasons. Concerts, baseball games, anything under the sun. He was doing well for a while where he wouldn't cancel, until he met his most current girlfriend, Dolores, 33. Dolores has a 12-year-old daughter, Erin, who she believes Larry should prioritize over Lucy. Anytime Lucy does go to their house, Dolores is very cold and unkind to Lucy, and she purposely excludes her. They rent a 3-bedroom house, yet when Lucy is there, she is forced to sleep on a love seat. They did not bother to get her a proper bed in her own space. There was even a time when Dolores and Larry were driving home with Lucy and Erin and went through Wendy's drive-thru. They got Erin a meal and a drink. When Lucy told them what she wanted, they told her no, that she can have something at their house like cereal. Larry and Dolores have an incredibly toxic, codependent relationship. Dolores has been fired from 4 jobs within a year. Larry hasn't had a car in about 5 years, so he's completely reliant on her car to get to his job. Neither can afford to live on their own, and Lucy says they fight constantly. She no longer enjoys being there. A combination of Larry constantly bailing on her, to how nasty Dolores is, has made her not want to go. Not for overnights at least. She loves her dad, and we do have an amicable relationship 90% of the time. But his failure to stand up to Dolores is starting to cause issues. I've told him Lucy does not feel welcome there, and I refuse to force her to go if she doesn't want to. I would never stop her from going, but I will not force her either. He says she's 10, and Thomas and I are a-holes for basically letting Lucy make this decision on her own. So, am I the a-hole for leaving this decision up to my child? Now for the comments. Not an a-hole. They are treating your daughter badly. If your daughter doesn't want to go, she has good reasons. You are just trying to protect your daughter. Your Rex is the a-hole. Did he even try to deny the Wendy's incident or her sleeping arrangements? Nope. He tries to justify it. He said Erin was hungry from her soccer game and needed dinner. Which, are you kidding me? And he just says, oh, we're getting her a bed soon. Which he's said this for over a year. So it's one reason I told him she's no longer to spend the night there. And the fact that she doesn't have her own space is becoming increasingly important the older she gets. She's 10. What's he going to do when she's 12? Or older? This is not a 4-year-old. He is quite a douche, and so is Dolores. Thomas and I say the same thing. What is he going to do when she's 12? 13. It's just ridiculous. Get her a pull-out futon for Christ's sake. Anything better than a love seat. Not today, Hall, but go to court and get full custody and child support. No court would allow Lucy at her dad's house unless he has a bed for her. I'm in favor of amicable co-parenting relationships, but not fighting him about this may hurt Lucy in the long run. You need to do everything you can to make sure Lucy's dad is accountable as a parent, because right now, he is being enabled to be a terrible father. He clearly isn't taking that initiative on his own. Not today, Hall. 10-year-olds deserve to set their own boundaries. That sounds like a horrible situation, and I think you're doing the right thing not forcing her. If Larry can't get it together, he's going to be very confused when Lucy turns 18 and goes completely no contact. Also curious, it sounds like drug-related at the beginning? Could that be a contributing factor now? I've considered the substance issue thing regarding the money. I do have suspicions at the time that he was abusing prescription pain meds, but could never prove this, which is one of my reasons for ending it. I've never seen anything as of late since the divorce that leads me to think he is abusing still. However, I do constantly keep my eyes open. Last story is titled, Am I the a-hole for saying I don't want to do gifts anymore with my family because they come with conditions that I only find out about later? My parents have a habit of giving a gift and then later adding conditions on. I'll give a couple examples. I got a gift card for them all at Christmas. Thought it was just a gift. But then weeks later, I've had made plans of how to spend the money. Sports gear. My parents said the first thing I needed to buy was school supplies for the spring. Then I could use the rest on fun stuff. Then after that, I need to buy clothes for school to replace the clothes I thought were fine. But then I could spend the rest on myself. After they made me buy all that, nothing was left. I felt like all I got for Christmas was the hassle of being made to go out and buy things I don't want. When I get gifts for my birthday, my parents held it over my head, like to say that on a family vacation I'd be the childcare for my siblings, nieces, and nephews. Or else they'd take back the phone, and hockey gear got as a gift. When I asked for money for a school trip, my parents gave it to me, but then told me a month later that I had to miss a game to help my dad with housework, to repay them for paying for the trip. I find it frustrating when a gift comes with a secret conditions that I don't find out till weeks or months later. It feels less like a gift and more like a favor to call in later, or something told over my head. So when my birthday was coming up this year, my mom asked me what I wanted, and said I'd rather skip gifts with a family. My mom asked me why, and I told her that I think gifts, at least the way our family has done them, are more stressful than nice. It seems like they treat gifts as something with conditions but aren't clear what those conditions are when they're offering a gift. So then it feels like signing a contract that I wasn't allowed to read when I accept a gift. I have no idea what I'll owe, and for the next few weeks or months, I'll be waiting for the other shoe to drop. Then I told her I'd rather skip the family party and the gift giving and just do something chill with my friends. My mom was upset with me, saying stuff about tradition and how she doesn't do that I was cherry-picking frustrations when most gifts aren't like that. I said that I felt like it was more often than not. She told my dad about the conversation, and he was really upset with me, saying I was being ungrateful, and that when I was living under his roof, there were going to be conditions. Can't just go do whatever I want whenever. I said, okay, but I'd rather not have those conditions be linked to gift giving and holidays, because it makes holidays an unpleasant time for me. And that he can have rules, but he can't make anyone take a gift if they've decided they don't want to accept gifts. I was grounded for talking back like that. Am I the a-hole for having told my parents no birthday gifts? Not the a-hole. If they insist on giving gifts anyway, just put them to the side. And when they give you the surprise condition, give them the gift back. It will happen. My in-laws were that way. But I don't think that would make Opie any happier. He gives the money back that he doesn't want to buy school supplies and clothes with, and they'll buy him the school supplies and clothes. Because guess what? He needs them. He gives them the money back for the school trip. But now he can't go on the school trip that he clearly wants to go on because he asked for the money. Better advice would be to get a job, so his parents can give him the money for the school supplies that he can pay for his own school trip. I would be a lot happier because at least things would be predictable. The most frustrating thing about the gift as one half of a bargain, but you don't know what bargain that will be until much later, is the anxiety of waiting for the other shoe to drop. At least that would be predictable. I don't go on the trip, I don't get school supplies, but I also don't get some unpleasant surprise about what I later owe as repayment for the gift. Not day home. You got grounded because they were called out on their BS and they had nothing else to reply with. They retaliated instead. If you don't want gifts or parties, that's your choice. It's your birthday. And if they hold parties and gifts over your head as favors, they are more loan sharks than parents.